Hello everybody, my name is Jemma Hatt and I am the author of Secrets at Number 6, the first book in the Mysterious Mansion series. Today's video is all about life as an Edwardian servant. Alice starts her new job as the maid of all work at Number 6 in December 1908 when she is just 12 years old. It was ordinary in those days for children from a poorer background to begin work and leave school full-time at the age of 12. Their families couldn't afford to have them at home for any longer than that. In fact, children often took on part-time jobs in their last year or two of school, as Alice did. This was important for children who wanted to go into service as maids, as they often had to pay for their own uniform with their own money before they started their new job. Working at a house like Number 6 would have been seen as a great privilege for someone with Alice's background at the age of 12. Although working in a large Edwardian house was tough and involved working from the crack of dawn right through to the evening, life could have been worse for Alice in a house where she was the only servant, such as her previous position with Mrs. Crunchy. In a large, fully staffed house like Number 6, there were more people to make friends with and more opportunities to get promoted later on. So how did Alice at the age of 12 secure her position as a maid of all work? In Chapter 3, The Dinner Party, Mabel talks about this, saying, "You don't deserve to work in a house like this. You're only here because your cousin works across the street. It's not as if you worked to get here like I did." Alice had a connection through her cousin to get the position at Number 6, but also in the 1900s it was becoming increasingly difficult to employ staff to work in service. The hours were long, and there were better conditions in other jobs and shops. Nancy, the second housemaid, makes reference to this later on in the book. She says, "I'm sick of it here, us all slaving away from morning till night. For what? Paltry wages and a freezing cold attic room. They've not even bothered installing electricity up there. There are better conditions in the factories and offices, and the workers there are free." As a maid of all work, Alice's responsibilities were varied. We see her in the book walking the dog Nero at 6 o'clock in the morning, blackleading the range in the kitchen, and cleaning the carpets with tea leaves. In those days there were no vacuum cleaners and a lot of manual cleaning had to be done by hand. There were benefits to working in an Edwardian household as a servant, one of them being the food. Alice has never eaten so well since she started work at Number 6. Wealthy Edwardians had a lot of food on the table, and they didn't eat much of it. When the staff are preparing for the dinner party, Ethel tells Alice about the food. There was mock turtle soup, which Ethel had told her was actually made of beef, along with oysters, turbot in a creamy sauce, roasted partridge, duck, salad, and a fruit tart, followed by a variety of cheeses. They barely touch it most of the time, Ethel had told her earlier, so we'll have a feast later. Whilst maids had to pay for their own uniform, footmen didn't have to. You may think this is unfair, especially because footmen were paid more than maids, and their uniforms, or livery as they were called, were a lot more elaborate. Footmen were on display a lot more than maids in an Edwardian household. They answered the door, served at meals, and often followed the lady of the house on shopping trips. Image is important for footmen in an Edwardian household. Alice is surprised when John tells her that although he is older and more experienced than James, it's James who is the first footman and paid more. When Alice questions John about why he is the second footman, even though he is older and more experienced than James, John explains, "Because James is tall and handsome. Folk in the upper classes, they like a tall footman to follow them about and answer the door. They get paid more for it." Alice furrowed her eyebrows. "But that's not fair." John smiled. "That's being in service. It's all right. I'd probably get bored if I had to stand outside shops for as long as James has to. I'd rather be busy, even if it is polishing endless silver." I hope you've enjoyed finding out a little about life as an Edwardian servant in the early part of the last century. To find out more, Secrets at Number 6 is available in paperback, ebook and audiobook. There will also be a second book in the series coming out later this year. That's all for now. Happy adventuring!